You are painting the bedroom, and you get to the door, and you go to take the hinges off so you can do the frame properly. You put a screwdriver in the first screw, and the slot is not a slot anymore. It is a little dish of dried paint. So you dig it out with the corner of the screwdriver, and you finally get the screw turning, and the hinge comes off in your hand. And you look at it. It is a lump. 6 coats of paint, one on top of the other. Somebody painted this room in 1974 and did not take the hinges off. Somebody did it again in 1988 and again in 2003. Nobody ever took them off. They just painted right over. The edges are rounded and soft with paint. The knuckle barely turns. And half the reason that door has never hung right is sitting there in your hand. So you think, well, I will just buy new ones. $8 a pair. Put your wallet away. Because there is a good chance that lump in your hand is solid brass, better made than anything you can buy today. And getting it back cost you nothing but a pot of water and an afternoon of leaving it alone. I am Artie Sterling. Let me be straight with you right at the front so you know whose workbench you are leaning on. I spent 10 years as a finish carpenter before I ever taught a class, and 30 years teaching high school shop after that. And I have taken painted over hardware off more old doors than I could begin to count. Hinges, latches, knobs, the little plates behind a doorknob. I almost never threw one away. Now, before I show you the fix, I want you to understand what is going on between that paint and that metal, because once you know, the fix makes perfect sense. Paint does not stick to metal the way it sticks to wood. When you paint wood, the paint soaks down into the grain. It gets into the pores and locks itself in. That is why paint on wood is so stubborn. But metal has no pores. Metal is smooth and closed. So when somebody rolls paint over a hinge, that paint has nothing to sink into. It lays on top and dries into a hard skin wrapped around the shape of the hinge, holding on mostly by squeezing. It is a shell, not a bond. A shell, and a shell will let go if you can get it to soften and swell a little, all the way through, all at once. Heat and water do that, not chemicals, not a wire wheel. Warm water and time. Now here's the part I really want you to hear. Under that shell, in a house built before about 1960, there is a very good chance you have solid brass or bronze, not plated, not stamped thin, solid, cast, heavy hardware, made back when that was simply how hinges were made. The kind you cannot buy today for $8 or for $30. You are not cleaning a hinge, you're uncovering one. Here's how you do it. 5 minutes of work and a few hours of leaving it be. You need a pot. And I want to be plain about this one. Use an old pot you do not cook in. A thrift store pot or a slow cooker you picked up for $4. Not the good pot out of your kitchen. I will tell you why shortly, and it matters. Put the hardware in. Hinges, screws, latch plates, all of it. Cover it with plain water. Nothing added. No soap, no vinegar, nothing. Bring it up to a simmer and hold it there. Not a hard rolling boil, a simmer. 2 or 3 hours will do it. If you are using a slow cooker, put it on low and leave it overnight. And that is the easiest way there is. Then take a piece out. Let it cool enough to hold, and the paint comes away. Not in flakes, in sheets. It lifts off in whole soft pieces, and anything that stays behind will come with a gentle push from a plastic scraper or an old toothbrush. You get down to bare metal in every corner and every screw slot without ever scratching it. Now, here is the mistake, and I have watched it ruin good hardware. Folks get impatient. They reach for a wire wheel on a drill or a chemical stripper, or they take a knife to it cold. The wire wheel takes the paint off and takes the surface off with it. All that soft, warm color old brass earns over 100 years, gone in 10 seconds. And now you have a bright scratch thing that looks like a reproduction. Chemicals stripper works, but it is nasty. It costs money, and it will not get down into the knuckle of the hinge, where the paint is worst, and scraping it cold just chips it and gouges the metal underneath. The water gets everywhere the paint got. That is the whole advantage. Let it do the work. One more thing. If your hardware is steel rather than brass, it comes out wet and bare wet steel starts to rust within minutes. So dry it right away and put a light coat of oil on it right then, not later. Now, some honest notes, because I never want to promise you the moon. The big one is lead. If your house was painted before about 1980, assume the old coats underneath are lead paint. That is not me being dramatic. That is just what was on the shelves back then. Simmering, it does not put lead in the air, but it does put it in the water and in the chips. So use a pot you will never cook in again. Wear gloves. Do it with a window open. When you are done, strain the chips out, bag them, put them in the trash, and pour the water down the drain. Not out on the garden, not where a dog drinks. Do that, and it is a safe afternoon. Skip it, and you're being careless with something nobody should be careless with. Second thing, this is for solid metal. If what you have is cheap modern hardware, a thin skin of brass color plated over steel, that plating can come out blotchy, no great loss on an $8 hinge, but know it going in, and it will not fix a hinge that is bent or worn out. It cleans. It does not straighten. Let me tell you about a house I worked on. Young couple, first house, built in 1912, and they had saved 2 years to buy it. They called me because they wanted to replace all the door hardware, every door in the place, and there were 11 of them. They had picked new hinges out of a catalog, reproduction pieces made to look old. $400 for the lot. I took one hinge off the hall door and set it on the table in front of them, an ugly lump of cream-colored paint. I asked them to give me one day before they ordered anything. I put all 11 doors worth in a slow cooker over 2 nights, and what came out was cast bronze, every one of them, with a foundry stamp from Connecticut on the back of each leaf. They had been about to spend $400 on new hardware made to imitate the hardware they already owned. Those hinges are still on that house. They were on it before that couple ever got there, and they will be on it long after. Now, why does nobody tell you this? Same story as everything else at this bench. There is a whole wall of new hardware at the store. Hinges, knobs, plates, sold in packs, in finishes with names like oil-rubbed bronze and antique nickel, most of it stamped thin and plated to look like something heavier than it is. There is no display anywhere for a $4 pot and the knowing of what to do with it. A company cannot build a business telling you that the thing you are shopping for is already screwed to your own door, under some paint, not because anybody hit it, because nobody profits by saying it out loud. So we are going to say it out loud right here. So here is what I would ask of you. This weekend, take one hinge off one door, just one, the gummiest, ugliest, most painted, over one in the house. Set it in a pot of water on a low simmer for an afternoon, and go find out what is under there. Then come down to the comments and tell me what you found. Tell me whether it was brass, and tell me how old the house is. Because a great many of you are living with beautiful hardware you have never actually laid eyes on, and I would like to know what is out there. I read every single one, and the next time we sit down at this bench, I want to show you how to tell in about 10 seconds whether a piece of furniture is real wood or whether it is sawdust and glue dressed up to look like it. It is one drawer, pulled out, and one thing you look at on the edge of it. Learn that, and you will never again pay good money for something that cannot be repaired. You will also start spotting the good pieces sitting at yard sales for $40. So put the catalog down, go find an old pot, see what is under the paint. Keep it simple, keep it cheap, and do it right. The first time. The folks who built the furniture in this country knew that, and we are going to remember it together.